In today's video, we're upgrading our Flux Proof of Useful Work mining rig because unfortunately, this guy's not going to cut it. Today's video is sponsored by the team over at MetaMiner.ai. With cryptocurrency prices beginning to rise, right now is the best time to snag that ASIC miner you always wanted. MetaMiner has stock in some of my favorite Bitcoin, Kaspa, Kadena, and Scrypt ASIC miners for super reasonable and competitive prices. Right now, I have my eyes on the S19K Pro, the Jasminer X16Q, and the Ice River KS1 from MetaMiner. Interested in bulk order to fill out your mining farm? MetaMiner has you covered. A huge benefit that I like about MetaMiner is that they accept a wide variety of cryptocurrency as payment, perfect for us miners. Finally, connect with MetaMiner on social media. They are on all major platforms like WeChat, WhatsApp, Telegram, and Twitter. Go check out metaminer.ai today via the link in the video's description down below and tell them the Hobbyist Miner sent you. What is going on, miners, and welcome back to the Hobbyist Miner channel. Well, a few weeks back, Flux went ahead and launched their FluxCore Proof of Useful Work Alpha. And unfortunately, this rig that I got all excited about that we built did not perform as expected. So we really didn't know what the hardware requirements were going to be. We had a pretty good idea, and that's why I bought, should I say, and built this rig. I did a whole video on this build, so if you guys are interested, I'll put a link directly down below to it. You can follow along to everything. Let me give you a quick spec rundown, and then we're really going to get into the nitty-gritty. So this is a kind of workstation rig. It's a Dell one here. You can take a look. It's actually the Dell Precision Tower 5810. So this is like a workstation rig. It's kind of like a weird hybrid between like a computer and a server. So it's got a Dell motherboard that supports 128 gigabytes of memory. It came with 32 and I swapped it out and maxed it out at 128 gigs. And you might be like, well, wait, why? Well, based off of the early discussions of Flux Proof of Useful Work, VRAM was super important on the graphics card. And to go along with that, they recommended that you had up to 4 times the amount of onboard memory for the VRAM for some of these projects. Not required, but recommended. So I thought, hell, let's go ahead and max out the memory. So that's exactly what we did. Memory was right about $150 for the entire thing. The workstation, let me step back, was about $200 originally. Now, for the processor, it comes with a Xeon processor, which is pretty traditional with your server architecture. And it was a 10 core, and I upgraded it to a 14 core. Now, talking about hard drives, we have a solid state in here. This one here is a 250 gigabyte solid state, and we paired it with a 4 terabyte Western Digital red hard drive. And you might be like, well, why a fast hard drive and then a super slow one but really big? Well, reason is because everything we heard about Flux Proof of Useful Work was you'll need a fast drive for the operating system, and then you're going to need a large secondary drive for the project to offload for the project files that your rig is going to get assigned to for Flux Proof of Useful Work. So finally, my GPU, this guy here, which we talked about just at the very top of things, this here is an EVGA 3060 12 gigabyte. So I initially thought, okay, we're talking about a lot of VRAM needed for AI and for compute and everything. And so I went with a 3060 because of the 12 gigabytes. I thought, no brainer, not super costly, but will definitely do the job. Well, unfortunately, that was not the case. So Flux Proof of Useful Work is not out yet. And it's actually, the FluxCore itself is in alpha. But my understanding is that they're going to be enabling the Flux Proof of Useful Work feature soon within the next few months. Now, what does that mean for you as a GPU miner? Well, it gives you an opportunity to earn some additional income. They're saying up to 10 times the normal amount that you would earn from mining Flux traditionally. So keep an eye out, and we'll have to see when this drops. Now, within FluxCore, though, they have given us a benchmark tool, and it pretty much allows us to assess our rig, it reviews our rig, and tells us how it stacks up against other people on the project. And as I said before, there's thousands of GPUs already on this project waiting for Flux Proof of Useful Work to go ahead and launch. And the Flux benchmark tool assesses things like AI interference, AI training, and finally Blender, all super popular and well-known tools for AI rendering, compute, and other projects that can be utilized for Flux Proof of Useful Work. Well, how did my RTX 3060 12GB do? Unfortunately bad. My score was 17,500 for my rig. And where does that stand? Well, when the median or the average is 45,000 and the best is over 80,000, it doesn't look too good for this GPU. And what I learned in the meantime is that your GPU is actually weighted far more than anything else, which looking back, I guess makes sense because we are looking at AI, rendering, compute, jobs. So I need to kind of change things up. I think we need to replace the GPU. All right, so we are going to be upgrading to the RTX 3080. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this is my most powerful graphics card right now. This is the best one. I mean, my best card next to this right now is my 12 card 3070 rig. I've never had a 3080, let alone, look at this, being a Founders Edition. So I picked this up locally on Facebook Marketplace, and I am so excited. Now, one challenge we're gonna run into here is, this is actually a 12 pin, check that out. So the seller provided me this EVGA 12 pin that goes to 8 pins. Now, the challenge is that, you know, this power supply is pretty unique. Look at this. This is a Dell power supply that slides in, goes to a distribution or breakout board, depending on talking to miners or Dell lingo. And our boy, the veteran miner, huge shout out to him, he went ahead and made me these custom cables. It takes an 8 pin and splits it to 2 8 pins, which is awesome. In the back there, you can see there's a 10 pin and it runs to a 10 pin on the motherboard. Appreciative. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and plug that cable in. One of those 8 pins is gonna go right here, replace this cable, and then in the far back, I don't know if you can see it all the way back there, is a 10 pin that is open. So the veteran miner, huge shout out to him, guys. I'll put a link to his website down below. He does a ton of these custom cables. He made me a 10 pin to 8 pin that's going to connect to here. And that's going to allow me to safely power that 3080 with one 10 pin and a full 8 pin, which is going to be awesome. So now the question is, will it fit? Damn, that looks sexy. Check that out. I am so excited. A 3080. Oh yeah, look at that. It fit good. Still a little bit of room there. Now this drive can come out real easy if I needed to pop it out to give me extra room if I needed to get even bigger of a card in here. But oh man, that worked out well. A little trouble getting that 10 pin all the way in the back there, plugged into this adapter, but man, so much length on that freaking double 8 pin to 12 pin there. It's my first 12 pin that I've had with a Founders Edition, but yeah, it turned out awesome. All right, let's jump over to FluxCore and kick off our benchmark. All right, so our benchmark finished, and I'm gonna be honest, I thought I would do better. So right now, taking a look here, we are up, our score is up to 28,190. And I was hoping for something closer to the median, which tells me that, you know, my GPU is not terrible. It's a 3080, right? I mean, I think we're pretty good. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the individual scores. So for AI interference, we're at 13 out of 21, which 13,000 out of 21. So still not amazing. For AI training, we're at 14,009 out of 22. So we're still really struggling there. And I think this is where some of these 4090s are really coming into play. Now, when we look at our blender's a little bit better. We're at 1511 versus 1849. So we're definitely getting closer. The rest of these items don't have to do necessarily with the performance of that necessary hardware. It's more on hard drive and also on download latency. So what does this tell us? Well, the GPU is definitely a massive factor, but using some of this older hardware, I think is really my bottleneck. I think my next step is, if I really want to take Flux Proof of Useful Work seriously, is looking at some of these gaming motherboards with, you know, maybe something like a Ryzen 9 or something like that. I think from the overall aspect, I'm going to step into Flux Proof of Useful Work with this rig right here. But if I find very quickly that there's more money to be made and that the profitability is shown that, hey, you have this hardware, you're going to make X, I might have to make the investment here in 2024 and go all out at building a hardcore rig. I'd love to hear from you guys down below. Have you built anything for Flux Proof of Useful Work, and how has it scored? In the end, mine ends up being 28,190. That's going to wrap things up for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this update. Keep me posted down below in the comments on your thoughts and feelings on Flux Proof of Useful Work. Has anyone heard when it's going to go ahead and drop and be enabled in FluxCore? I absolutely can't wait to test it out and see just how much it actually ends up paying out in Flux.